Hey guys, so a couple days ago I posted a video on the 5 divisions of locksmithing where I went through the 5 categories you will fit into in the locksmith career and trade. And a lot of my DMs came in and they were all about pricing. How do you price these jobs? The pricing is kind of all over the place. And ever since COVID, we had a lot of, especially here because I'm a local rural locksmith, we had a lot of our locals up and move because at the height of COVID, these $90,000 houses sold for $600,000. Insane. Just to show you guys, I know you guys are like, oh, you're from California, it must be so pricey. In 2016, my neighbor bought his 3 bedroom house on an acre of land with a 2 car garage for $90,000. It was like 92,000. The neighbor to the other side of me bought theirs for 76,000. This year, they sold the house that was 76 for 330,000, and the one that he bought for 90 is currently being listed at $475,000. These prices are insane. Okay, we had people sell their house for close to a million, and it's just everything went crazy. But in the midst of all that, the locals that own these shops sold, and when they sold, they left and they went out of state, they went out of the area, and they sold their company. The people that bought these are not locksmiths, they are investors. So we have, for instance, a plumber who was very well known and respected. He sold, they kept the name, so it looks like he's still the owner, but it's a guy who bought a gas station and the plumber. So it's just an investor. One of the locksmiths up here, he bought the lock shop, he bought another lock shop down the hill, and he bought like a dog groomer and 2 restaurants and a laundromat. So these are investors that just went after anything that they saw money signs on and they bought at the right time. They were just trying to get rid of the business. They made all their money on their house and they sold these businesses for whatever they could get out with, like they made their money. So a lot of these businesses went up for nothing. And now you have, if you call an electrician up here, if you call the wrong one, if you call the local, he's going to be a lot more reasonable. You can call the wrong one and you could be out hundreds of dollars just for them breathing in your general direction. I understand that it's always been like that with plumbers and electricians, but just times it by 5. Okay, whatever you think you're going to pay, times it by 5 if you call those guys. I talked about it in my last video where one of our local locksmiths, he charges $425 for a key, and this guy charged $650. The guy also charged over $1,200 for a Mini Cooper key, where the other guy was charging 5, 6, 700. So like the pricing is insane. You used to have to deal with just scammers doing that. Now you have to watch who you're actually calling because it couldn't, you could call and it might look like it's still, Dave's lock shop, but it's not Dave anymore. It says Dave, but now it's Bill. You know what I mean? And Bill isn't a locksmith. He is a guy with money that bought this because he wants to rake in as much as he can. He saw a rural market and thinks he can corner it. So you're dealing with that. And then I also have people that say, oh, when they hear my price, they say, oh, that's way too high. And I'm nowhere close to this guy. But when I go into like a San Diego or the heart of Los Angeles, I am considered high. But when you come up here, you get to see the difference. So I want to talk about that. And the best way I could do that is with my cue cards here. We're going to talk about metro versus rural locksmithing. So there is a difference, and I want you guys to really understand this. I'm from California, so my state is bigger than most. Like, there's like, you could probably fit like 15 states into California, realistically. Like, when you really think about it. It's a huge state, and the counties here are massive. So like my wife, for instance, she is from Michigan. So her county was basically her town. And then you go to the next town, like you're in the next county. Here, you can go from Palm Desert, California, past Riverside, the city, and you are still in Riverside County. You can drive over an hour and 20 minutes and still be in the same county. in that drive, you can intertwine San Bernardino County, which is another big county. When you work as a locksmith in San Bernardino or Riverside, you are in the middle of, three of the biggest counties in California. So when you're there, that's going to come with high population. So this is something that locksmiths like me don't get to deal with, because in my area, like just in my town, we have the same amount of people that are probably in the parking lot of any beach in Los Angeles. Okay. Like we don't have the population size. So for locksmiths like us, if we're charging those lower fees for a lockout, we're not getting 7, 8, 9 calls a day on lockouts like I used to get when I was in Riverside. When I worked in Riverside, I never stopped moving as a locksmith. We were just constantly on the road, and you generally, like, you never stopped. And you would rake at the end of the day, just my tickets alone, I would bring into the desk and give it to our dispatcher. There wasn't a single day where I made less than like $4,000. And that was like a slow, low day. You know what I mean? Like there was days where I would come back with $11,000 that I made myself for that company. Just me going around. So when you could never do that in a rural area unless you're doing big commercial jobs, like contractor style. So you're going to get that because those guys can charge lower prices because their phone never stops ringing. Where up here, we do have our dead times. It's the same thing with calling a plumber up here or an electrician. They're all very, the community understands this. When you go up into like an Idlewild or a Big Bear, for instance, they really take care of their own and they don't like to call outside because they know it snows in those areas and their companies starve. Like there's a certain time of year where those kinds of businesses, the trades, suffer. So you have to kind of, stock up, and then the town kind of gets stuck, like you get snowed in and you don't have what we're going to talk about next, which with higher populations comes higher demand. So this is something that we both have to deal with. Again, it goes with the higher population. You have a lot of demand. Like I said, their phone never stops ringing when they're in Riverside, San Diego, the heart of Los Angeles, Sacramento, San Francisco. You're not, there's no shortage. Bakersfield, for instance, is just massive and it covers so much ground. You have a whole bunch of demand. So you can afford to lower those trip fees because you're going to make so much off of these places. And it's so much commercial work that they're able to lower their price down. And here in the rural areas, we don't have that high, crazy demand where you have 14, 15 clients every day. It's not going to happen. So the pricing is going to be higher. Where you might think that 150 is crazy here because down there, they're, 85 for whatever the job is. That guy's doing 12 of those jobs where this might be one of 3 jobs we have for the day up here. So, in order to sustain a business and be available for the community, we have to be able to survive ourselves. So you have to have that balance. And again, it's just not a lot of demand, but there is a demand for trustworthiness, reliability, dependability, and skilled workers. That's everywhere. So they do really want to vet you in these rural areas. They want to know who you are and they trust you. The one thing that they don't have in the metro areas is that hometown feel. Like when you call a locksmith, there's very few people out in those big cities that say, "Oh, I only use this one." They're just like, I'm going with whoever has the better price. Where up here, they're like, I trust this one. This one's lower, but I've used him, so I'm going to use him. That's kind of how it is up here. We don't really poach each other's customers, but we all have enough that goes around. And it is smaller. There's only 3 of us, and then there's like 2 Facebook guys that do everything. They're like the landscape handyman, also do locksmith kind of people. Um, but I wanted to touch on that because that's a big part of your pricing. If there's a high demand for what you're doing, that can change. So when we talk about that, we'll talk about tourism. Tourism is where the rural locksmith really feasts, because like I live in a very tourist friendly area, and constantly it's all the time short-term rentals and people locking their keys in their car. That's something that happens every tourist season, and you make a lot of your money. Where those calls are just a regular occurrence in a metro area with or without tourism. You're going to have that all the time. Every single day that I worked in Riverside, I unlocked at least 6 or 7 vehicles. Like there was no shortage of vehicle lockouts. Lock picks even, that's one of the lowest like percentage jobs you're going to do as a locksmith. When I was in Riverside itself and I was handling all those counties, it was like 3 or 4 lock picks. Like that's a lot for a locksmith. And that was just me. There was other locksmiths at my company that were going out to do more. But here we feast on tourism. We don't take I don't take advantage. I charge my normal price to them. We have other guys here that will up the price just because they can. I don't like doing that. I don't like changing my price for different reasons. I've always said, if I charge, I charge what I charge, whether it's my millionaire, movie director customers or my customers that I help at the trailer parks. If those two ever run into each other at like your local gas station and they say, oh, I use that locksmith, like, oh, what did you pay? It's going to be the same fee. Like if that ever happens to happen in the world and they meet each other, they paid the same price. I don't charge more for this and that. One of my competitors tried that. Before I got the client, he's a very well-known director. He told me, he said, I called your competitor. He wanted $500 per door to install. And the guy bought his own locks. Like the first time I was there, he had the lock. He's like, I just want my locks taken off and these put on. They were nothing crazy. Okay. Nothing crazy. Just the stuff you would find at your Home Depot. And he wanted $500 a door just because of who he was. I am not that person. I charged him the same price I would charge anybody to put those locks on. The guy had a ton of doors and I was like, wow, that's crazy. And I don't like people that do that. The guy who he bought the store from was similar to me. He didn't change his prices like that. The new investor does do that, and I heavily dislike it. He can fight me. I don't care. Come at me, bro. Like this is my community before you ever step foot in it. I don't like any locksmith that does that. I don't like it when even when an electrician does that, like just because, oh, this guy is a millionaire, I can get one over on him. You don't do that. And because I didn't do that to this guy, he has me work for all of his properties and it's a consistent basis. So you could have made your 500 a door. He would have never called you back. I've made, plenty because of how much work this guy gets me on his movie sets and different things like that. So it goes a long way to be honest. Honesty is huge as a locksmith, you guys. You want to be upfront. You want to be transparent, The other thing that we're going to talk about here while we're on the topic is your competition. Here, like I've already spoken on, I have that guy, that investor locksmith. I have another guy. He's also been here just as long as I have, and he has his own clientele. They do not steer away from him. My clients do not steer away from me. We coexist, and when he needs help, he'll text me and he'll say, hey, even after he's been a locksmith for 15 years, and sometimes he'll text me and he's like, hey, you ever run into this problem? So that is something that you guys, like, don't think that any locksmith out there is just the end all be all, like the Godfather. Everybody runs into something they haven't seen at some point, so, and we're friendly. And when I'm out of town, I will send my customers to him. When he's out of town, he sends his to me. And the customer, we don't poach each other and say, oh, if you start using me, I'll give you like a 10%. I never do that. He never does it. We coexist and we live. It's the way to do it. The other guy is charging 5 times our prices, so we're dealing with that. So he won't send anyone to us, but his prices do. um, but when you're in a metro area, your competition is crazy. When I was in Riverside, just to tell you guys, if you Google in Riverside like locksmith, you're scrolling to like page 8 of Google. Nobody's ever been to page 8 of Google, but you can get there just looking for locksmiths. And a lot of these, they go to call centers, and you get these people, and it's just every time you call, it's a different price. Like you can call and say, "Hey, I broke my key in my ignition," and they're like, "Oh, it's $200." And then you're like, "Okay," and then you call it right back, and they're like, "Oh, $350." You call it right back, "Oh, $150." It doesn't matter because they're gonna gouge you when they get there anyway. Some of I don't trust any of the call center ones. Um, the other problem with the call centers is you can call like the first 10 numbers, and they're all different numbers, but they all go to the same call center, which is insane. So it's one place, but they're using all these different call center numbers. So you have that. You have your scammers that are, telling people, "Oh, we're $45 for $35 for a trip." And then they show up and all their prices are insane. And then you have other shops who their trip fee is high, but their rekey prices are low. So it all balances out. And then you're also competing with the franchises and those big ones, those big, everybody knows those. Um, these guys have 5 or 6 trucks on the road every day. Most lock shops don't have that. Like 3 or 4 is pretty high for your, hometown shop. Um, these are franchises that just have, they're just trying to get everything they can. And their turnover's higher too because they don't really train well, but they have bodies on the road. When you're competing with that, it's really hard. So everybody out there is competing to lower and lower and lower. It's almost like a race to the bottom. Um, you have to be able to separate yourself. A lot of people in those areas, they specialize. They're going to be, I am a safe guy, I am a commercial only, or there's the auto only. Some of them, when you call them, if you say, I need a residential, they're like, "No, call this guy. I do cars, I do stores." And that's upfront, that's how they are. um, where here, it's 3 of us main hometown shops. One of them looks hometown, it's not, but you have 3. So that investor that came in, when he bought that shop, he didn't really even pay attention to us. He just thought we were some kids that didn't know anything. And then he actually talked to me one day and he's like, "I didn't know everybody in town uses you. Like every store I've tried to go into, they're like, 'No, we use him.'" And he's like, "I met you." He's like, "You're so young." But when I sat there across from him, when I was talking about safes, he's like, "We don't have a safe guy." He's like, "You open safes?" And then he had a safe in there and I showed him like 3 different ways that I could get in. And he just looked. I was like, "Yeah, I have tools. I have equipment and technology that does this." You know what I mean? Like I can do this. And he's like, "We don't have anybody that knows how to do 4-point locks and 3-point lock systems." And I was like, "That's crazy that you bought a shop and you don't have." I was like, "What do you do?" He's like, "I was a mechanic, so I know cars." He's like, "So I stick with the cars." And then I realized, I'm like, "You're like, yeah, this is gonna be hard for you, And he's like, "You need to up your price." He's like, if I can't buy you out, your price is too low. He's like, "It should be $40 a cylinder to rekey a house." He's like, "You can't charge less than 40, or else, like I can't compete." And like he was upfront about that, and I was like, "I'm not charging $40 a cylinder. That's insane." But that's where he was at. So he doesn't like me because we couldn't agree on that. I was like, "This is my hometown. This is my community. I will not do that to people. I am not charging $180 to come out to you and then another 85 to pick your lock." Like that's insane, bro. Like that's half of what people used to pay rent before COVID. You know what I mean? Um, and you have to deal with that. And he knows that his competition is scarce. So if me and the other guy are out of the town, he can charge, and he has charged $600 to pick a lock because he had to come up here. He doesn't even live in my area. He's sending his people from another city, from the lock shop he bought down there. He's sending them 9 cities up to pick your mailbox or pick your house lock. So he's charging crazy money, and people are getting sick of it. So you have to remember that. Just because you go into a rural market, do not try and corner that market. These people are hometown. You can get away with that sometimes in like San Bernardino because you can disappear into the shadows in San Bernardino. You can't disappear here. You can't hide here. When I help my customers, I also shop at these businesses owned by these customers. We all use each other. I shop at my local convenience store. Everybody knows me. He gets to leave. He gets to go home 9 cities over and not look at these people. I can't do that to somebody. So always remember, just because your competition is low, don't think that you could just, corner that market and just spike it up and that we're all going to follow. Be careful doing that. I see it in way too many rural areas here in California, and I hate it. Honestly, like straight up, we can go out to the parking lot on that one. I don't care. I really don't. I care about my community. I know those other hometown locksmiths, they care about theirs. We are in this greedy society right now where everybody has to make as much as possible. I still believe I will make it off of volume and just my customers referring me to other people. So I've always lived by that. And that's just where I stand on that front. So I know it kind of got off topic a little bit, but I do want to point that out to you guys. Don't do that. Don't go into a shop and say, "Oh, I'm going to buy this one," and now I'm invested, so now I have to raise my price. You'll make your money back, but look at it in the long term. Don't try to make it all up front. You'll make a lot of enemies that way. You'll make the community really just resent you. Like his parking lot right now has been empty forever. His employees come over to me and they're like, "Would you consider hiring us?" At I will point this out because people like this deserve to be called out. I won't call it out by name, obviously. Um, he he will charge you $650 for a car key, and he is paying the guy that he sends you to make the car key 14 or now it's $16 an hour, minimum wage in California. So he is paying you the minimum wage, and he tells you straight up, that's what I pay. I pay minimum. He charges as if he's paying that guy, and you would think that the guy he's sending out is a 50-year locksmith. No, he's paying that guy $14, or now it's the last time they talked to me, the guy was like, "Yeah, we make minimum wage." Um, but yeah, the last time I talked to one of his employees, he was making 14 back when I was 14. I couldn't believe that. I was like, "You're paying this guy?" And that's what, and then he came up to me, he's like, "My employees are always stealing from me. They're stealing my stuff. They're taking stuff." And another thing that happened with him was because he's 9 cities away, he would get these lockout calls at midnight, and he would send one of those guys, and he would charge these people $700 at night to pick their lock. That's scammer money, but he was charging that. What those people making minimum wage were doing was they were coming up and saying, "Hey, call up and cancel. I'll pick your lock. Call it $200." They would just pocket the cash and then tell him they canceled it, and he got onto it. And I was like, I would expect that if I was charging $700, telling my minimum wage employee to go 9 cities at midnight to pick a lock with his own skill and his own lock picks, I would expect that. Like I would, because that means I'm paying this guy less than $50 to do this job, even round trip, and you're making all that. That's insane. Like you can't do that to customers. You can't do that to your employees. And that's something you guys have to call out when you see it. Like, it's not just scammers doing that. It is licensed lock shops, and it's wrong. It is so wrong. No locksmith should be making less than 25 an hour. Straight up, even straight out the gate. When you go into San Diego, there are shops right now. If you have just any knowledge of how to rekey, $30 an hour is what the reputable shops are looking to get you. Like 16, 17, that is nothing. Like that's crazy, especially to do that, to send them 9 cities and have them use their own tools. You know what I mean? Like that's insane to me. But let's get back on topic here. So the other thing that Metro has on rural guys is freeway access. freeways, some of you guys refer to it as interstates. Here in California, we just call it the freeway. Freeway and highway. I've been to other states where they call the freeway the highway. Here we have highways and freeways, the highway and the interstate. Like if you go from, Highway 58 and then you hop onto the 5, or you hop onto the 10. The 10 and the 5, those are considered freeways here, the interstate. And then the highway would be like Highway 58, Highway 62, Highway 74. Like you have your different highways, and then you have your freeways. When you're in San Diego, like San Diego, they have the best freeway system in America. Like I love San Diego's freeway system. Anywhere you need to go, if you get a lockout clear across town, you're there. Like it's almost as fast as like the Jetsons, where you just like warp speed. You hop on, you hop off, and you're there. Like it's so seamless. Riverside, their freeway system sucks. Like I'll just say it. Like the 60 and the 215 are like nightmares. But they have it. Like when you're rural, you don't have that. When you're in Big Bear, you're just stuck to your main roads. When you're in Idlewild, you're stuck to your main roads. When you're in, these outskirts of Bakersfield, Bakersfield has a decent little freeway system too. Nothing will ever beat San Diego. But when you go up there, San Francisco, everywhere, you're within range of where you need to be. Everything's close together, everything's there. When you go rural, for me, just for instance, I cover 9 cities around me. And it's crazy because I just said the 9 city thing. The 9 cities I cover don't count the 9 cities away that guy lives. So he's sending people 9 cities up to cover these 9 cities, which is insane. But when you're stuck without a freeway system, for me, just for instance, I had a lockout call, and it took me 46 minutes to get to this customer, even though the town they live in was 32 minutes away. Okay, 46, and they were down a dirt road, because it's all dirt roads here, and it takes forever. So the whole job took 10 minutes, but round trip, basically you're looking at 2 hours of round trip just driving time. So you lose 2 hours of your day to do a lockout in that town. Where in Riverside, I was knocking out 5, 6, 7 calls in 2 hours. Like the difference is huge because of the fact of that freeway. When I was in Riverside, they'd say, oh, go to Corona, go to Paris. I was never far away. Like a half an hour, was like long, and that was with traffic. You know what I mean? Here with traffic, it's like an hour and a half to get to somebody. So you have to price accordingly. You are losing 2 hours of your day to go out and pick a lock. It's going to cost, you know what I mean? And people in the rural, they understand it. Everything, obviously you're going to pay a little more. I'm not price gouging. I'm not charging them $300, you know what I mean? But I'm charging fair for me and for them. So you have to think of yourself. You have to think of your customer. Always look at it as a fair game. It's a big reason why locksmiths don't really charge hourly outside of commercial. It's a lot of flat rates. You really want to flat rate as much as you can because it shows them up front, If you're 85 for your service charge, which is pretty common, be upfront about it. It's 85 to come out. And what I learned from different shops was that was the lockout fee. If you locked yourself out, it was just 85 to come out and pick your lock. Now you have guys that say it's 85 to come out and 50 to pick the lock. And like all the shops I worked at, it was always just a trip fee, that became the lockout fee. You do have people though that want to charge like that. Or if you're, I'm 85 to come out and I'm $30 a cylinder, 85 to come out and I'm $20 a cylinder. Be upfront about it. Let them count their locks, but never say, per lock. Always say per cylinder, obviously. There are double-sided locks out there. But you want to flat rate as much as you can, but that freeway access is a big reason why you see the metro areas charge where, rural and outside areas charge, let's say 85, 75. These places can still reasonably charge $50, $40 even for a trip fee. But at the same time, anytime you see a $40 or $50 trip fee, usually it's tied to a 35 per cylinder rekey, where the guy's charging 85 or 95 are tied more to the $15-$20 a cylinder rekey. It all balances out, but sometimes you pay that $50 trip fee and you end up paying $100 more than you would to the guy that charged a higher trip fee and a lower, per cylinder. So always understand it. That was what my pricing video was about, was understanding your market and your own needs. Cover your bills, cover yourself, cover everything you have to cover your shop first and foremost, cover you, cover your family. But also think about your community. Don't just say, oh, I want to be king, I want to make lawyer, doctor money. Like, we're in trades. I hate when people in trades want to pretend like they should be making doctor money. I absolutely hate that. It's come on, man. Like, just get real. And the last thing I want to talk about is weather. So it's not something you really think about, but for the examples I've given, the mountain towns, Big Bear and Idlewild, I live in Southern California, so those are two that I can think of right off the bat that everybody knows. 4, 5, 6 months a year, these places get snowed in. Here in California, we have chain laws where just to go up to these cities or these little towns, you have to put chains on your tires. So a lot of people don't know how to do that, and a lot of people don't know how to drive in general. I know California gets a bad rap for California drivers. I used to work for a tow truck company here. The people that drove the worst were tourists. People from Texas, Missouri, like we had people from everywhere just driving off of cliffs and driving over decorative rocks at drive-throughs. And you get the heat because it happened in California, but California is a big tourist state. So like, just to put into perspective of how big the areas are, LAX probably has more people in that airport right now than some, like, I bet there's probably more people in LAX in the building, not even including the parking lot, just in the building at this moment than there are people in like 10 cities combined in Michigan. You know what I mean? Like, there are so many people in that airport, man. The parking lot alone probably has more cars than some whole cities in Alabama. You know what I mean? Like, it's insane how big the airport is. The airport spans probably more square footage than some of your towns, in some of those states. So again, going back to the demand and the population, like, those people can charge a lot lower because look at it. There's a locksmith every 5 seconds at LAX. Like, they're just unlocking cars left and right. So their demand is there. But weather-wise, when you are in like a Big Bear, for instance, like I do know Big Bear. I frequently go up there. Well, not like frequently, but I do go up there quite a lot. We hit the beach, we'll hit Big Bear. We do the whole California scenic drive a lot. And when you go up there, like, they know me. Like, they know I'm a locksmith. Like, I've been up there so many times. But the people up there, they're like, we use our own. And I understand that 100%. Because they know when it snows, they starve. Like, you are not getting any tourism anymore. Big Bear really heavily relied on tourism. COVID ruined it because investors came in and bought up all the cabins. Again, pre-2019, you could probably get a cabin up there for like 160,000. Now you're not getting anything for less than 4, so but these investors went up there and bought them for 160 and then rented them out for 1,200 a night, $1,000 a night. They got it too. But Big Bear suffered because they were a lodging town. When you went up there, you would stay in a cabin, and the money went into Big Bear. It was a local that owned it, or the town owned it. But you spent, like, the people who owned it spent that money back in Big Bear. Now you give $1,200 to somebody for the night, and it's going to, a lot of them are actually, they're not even from California. I deal with it here. We have a short-term rental issue here where one lady called me. She bought 14 homes during COVID here in my town. Again, as COVID started, she bought all these homes for less than $80,000. These are 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom houses. California wasn't this millionaire state, like, there were affordable houses before COVID. Investors ruined it. BlackRock ruined it. Investors ruined it. But she has never even been to California. She bought them all online and she Airbnb'd them for $1,000 a night each. And now she relisted all of those houses for almost $500,000 a piece. It's insane. Those houses have now sat empty for the last 7 months. Every single one of them. it's wrong to do that. It's so wrong to treat housing as this business, you know, but that's what happened. But weather does have a big effect. So if you live in a rural area that is affected by, I mean, some people have hurricane season, some people have tornado season, some people have, here in California, we're so diverse up here. Like, again, you could go from the beach straight up to snow if you really want to. And you can go from the snow down into the burning hot desert if you really wanted to. And then you can curve back and go up, and then you're like in the rain for absolutely no reason. But that's what the state is. So some of you guys live in states where like the whole state gets the same kind of weather. It would be nice, like looking at that. I've always thought it would be nice if we all just had one season. Certain areas of California don't know what winter is. Some of them only know what winter is. And then you have, like up north, you have a lot of rain, you know? So you really got to think about the weather. Is the weather really going to drive away your tourists? Is it going to kind of kill that renting season? You know what I mean? So always think of that. But I know this is another long video, but I'll bookmark it again. But these are the reasons why you might see the difference between 50, 60 bucks in a trip fee, you know? Just to give you that example right there. In the 2 hours it takes me to do that one lockout, when I was Metro, I was doing 6 or 7 calls. You know what I mean? So including like a whole house rekey, like front and back door kind of thing. But like still in the same amount of, and I think about it on these trips when I go up to these towns, they're so rural. And then you also have the other problem I didn't write down is service. A lot of these places I go to have no service. So I have to deal with that. You know, like getting payment without any signal is crazy. So that cuts into your time. That really does cut into your time. And a job that should be a 15-minute call, just to get paid takes longer than the whole job, you know? You got to think about these things. The reception, once you get there, and you don't have these addresses painted on the curb like you do in the metro areas. Some of them, the address is just completely wrong on the maps and the GPS in general. And you'll be right there and you can see the house, but you actually have to go another 12 minutes around just because the road is now washed out because of the last rain. So we have to deal with stuff like that. What should be a 5-minute trip from here to there, you actually have to go all the way up, turn, and then cruise through like 4 or 5 different streets just to come back down to where you were. But because of the rock slides and everything, you can't go there. So all of this eats into a locksmith's time. It eats into any contractor's time. So that's why you guys see those rural prices up there. Now, again, I don't think, like, I'm not even at $100 for a trip fee. So just to show you, but 100, like 85 is considered high when you go into Riverside, where like the average is like 50. Just to give you the example there, and it's 50 because they're going to get endless calls. You know, they work 24/7 too. And that's going to change after normal hours. But even here at after hours, like a lockout, maybe 150, $200. But down there, after hours is probably still the same price just because it's so common. So just to show you guys, like it might seem high to someone in a metro area. You might seem low to someone rural, but those are the reasons, you know. In a normal day, I can, at the high end up here, maybe 9 calls is what I can handle just because of the commute time. Where when I was metro, there was days where I brought 21, 22, I think my high was 24 tickets that I brought back. 24 jobs that I ran in my 8-hour shift is what I brought back working in a metro area. I've never hit that. I've never even gotten close to that working up here. And so just to show you guys, that is the reason for the pricing. We have to be able to live as well. We have to be able to take care of ourselves so we can take care of you. So the pricing, you guys are going to have to gauge it yourself there, but just know, you really always pay attention. You have to cover your bills. Your shop comes first. Your business insurance, your rent, if you have a shop, cover everything. Think about how much, you're going to spend in gas every day. If you're using one of those big transit vans versus, driving around one of the little Scions or something, Like, think about that. Always cover all of that. And then always cover what you need. Don't try to go live in a palace, be reasonable. But then, think about it. Think about the time. Think about the time frame of how often I run into these roads that are washed out so often I have to drive around. You could try to go through it, but you're going to destroy the inside of your service vehicle. Like straight up, you are going to probably get stuck. And then that's a $500 tow out. So think about stuff like this. You're going down these roads so often, our contractors get nails and flat tires all day long because of how the roads are, So always think about it. There's a reason we're charging what we charge, but we don't rip people off. We're just being fair to you and to us. We have to be fair to ourselves too. Don't try to go out there and be that friendly guy that's like, I'll give everyone a friendly price and, oh, is that too high? Don't ever go up to somebody and say, oh, is $150 okay? Say, that's $150. Always be confident and be, put your foot down on it, but don't try and just change your pricing either. Don't be that guy that's like, I haven't had a call in 3 days. I'm behind on this. This guy calls me, oh, you know what? It's going to be $350 because I need that three. Like, don't be that guy. Still keep your, 75 trip or 85 trip. Don't do that. At the end of the day, it's going to come back, and that one person that you paid or you charged fairly is going to recommend 5 or 6 people to you in his life. You know what I mean? It's going to come back, and then those people will refer you, and those people will refer you, and it comes back. At the end of the day, you always have to be fair to yourself too. But I just wanted to touch on that. This is a long video. It's probably the longest video I've ever done. But yeah, hopefully this really covers what you guys want to know about the rural versus metro. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.